Thank you, Shannon, and our other speakers. We'd now be happy to take any questions from the audience, and if you can identify to whom you would direct your question. Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Redliner, thank you. You were very clear about the mission we have, which is to get to the highest level of government. Is there anybody you know in the Homeland Security or anything like that that, you know, could, because of your work, doing this?
Well, I think that the process would have to involve a very clear expression of concern from the New York delegation. That's where it starts. So Schumer and Gillibrand and all the relevant members of the House of Representatives need to make their case to the president. It would be good if other agency heads, including HHS and DHS, Homeland Security and Health and Human Services, and Department of Energy would weigh in, but the ultimate pathway is for the president to tell this Federal Energy Regulation Commission that he is requiring a halt until we figure out what's going on here in this process. Everything else is kind of like maybe helpful, but I don't think it's the direct path personally. I could be wrong about that, but that's my sense of what would have to happen.
We've asked the senators, we have a letter that we composed
Yeah.
and presented, and asked Sandy and David both signed this letter, the two state assembly members and senate assembly members, and then we tried to have the federal
Yeah.
officials. Elliot Engel, Representative Engel wrote a
Yeah.
letter. He's been in touch with people in different areas in the government, but the others haven't sent a letter to the president.
Right, and by the way,
We don't know what to do now.
yeah, the letter is okay, but what actually happens is a phone call to the chief of staff in the White House. Real advocacy, you know, the letter isn't easy, you know, yeah, sure, we'll send a letter. My staff will draft the letter, I'll sign it, I'll send it in there, it'll get, you know, immersed in the process of letters to the president, which are thousands and thousands constantly streaming in there. So this would involve more activist approach, and especially by the two senators from New York.
Do you know them? Would you be able to help?
Yeah, I know them, and I'd be very happy to try to, you know,
Urge them to
Yeah.
be more active
Yeah.
and more outspoken. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Can I just follow up directly on that really quickly to say that Schumer has actually said he will do this, but now we can't get him to actually do it or for his staff to
I'm
respond.
so shocked.
I know. I live 3 blocks from him. I'm about to start camping out in front of his house if anyone wants to come hang out or we can like make a party. I'm not kidding. I'm totally gonna do it. But I mean, he literally caught him in front of his house and he committed to going to the president and to working with other senators, and he won't
So-
do it. So anything, if anyone has any connections in this room,
Well,
that would be
the problem is, even with connections, it's no secret what's going on
Of course.
now and what the country's consumed with, which is not about the problems or challenges around Indian Point and the gas line. I think everything is basically stopped. The entire White House apparatus, politically and otherwise, is focused on the outcome of the election on November 8th. And every single member of Congress, in the Senate and the House, is consumed with their own needs and invested in the outcome of this election. And there's a lot of fear about sort of straying from that focus and saying something that might impact your political future or who's going to be in the White House in January. It's hard to overstate how important that the current political environment is in terms of getting anything done. On the other hand, you have a very time-sensitive situation here because if we don't act, things will just keep rolling along here because, as I was saying earlier, the agencies responsible for actually controlling what happens or doesn't happen are beyond corrupt and beyond just serving their own personal interests and economic interests. So we have a lot of issues right now in the context of a massively difficult presidential election season. That said, I would like to try to go to Schumer and Gillibrand and make this case. And I certainly think this case should be prosecuted with Secretary Clinton, who, well, I don't want to go there, but let's just say that, anyway, we're working with the transition teams, which have already started. Both candidates have their transition teams started. So both of those transition teams should also be informed and pressured about what's at stake here.
Could Eric Snyderman stop it as Attorney General?
I actually don't know. Does anyone know? Do you know?
Because I wonder if he could just do it on some, legal.
It's
I
a
don't
federal
know.
preemption. So.
Yeah, no, actually, we tried with the Attorney General's office. Maybe it was about a year ago or close to a year ago. They tried so many things, I know, just going through the parkland and so on. They tried, they looked at all the state laws.
Yeah.
And they couldn't find a hook. And I really
Amazing.
think they worked really, really hard on it because I think they really wanted to be involved and to make a difference here.
I couldn't find a legal
And I
remedy.
remember all of our
General's office.
Attorney General's office, and I remember all the conversations that we had with them, and they were really trying to be very, very
But
good.
they also play two roles. They have to defend the DEC in this action. So they can be proactive, disagree, but at the end of it, they also have to defend DEC, which is not good.
I think the county public health directors actually, if they have the guts to do it, can do it. If it's, because it's a public health emergency situation. I don't know who that is, I'm not from this check.
Yes.
The Clinton's transition team that you mentioned, do you have a contact that would?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Yeah, no, that'll definitely happen. But, she's not the president-elect at this point. So
No, I
it's like,
know, I
so-
know.
But absolutely, yes.
because we have a letter that's prepared to go to Secretary Clinton, so we'd like to get that letter to the transition.
I would send it to
as well.
Neera Tanden,
I'm sorry?
Neera, Neera, Tanden.
T-A.
Neera is her first name, Neera, last name Tanden, Tanden.
And, okay,
And it's the Clinton transition team in Washington. I could get you the exact
okay.
contact information.
Okay.
What about the governor?
Well, what about the governor? What about the governor?
He's doing a risk assessment that's
The
supposed to be
governor's
done.
doing.
90 days.
It took us a little while. Remember the press conference we had out here at the cemetery in February or whatever? And it took us a little while. The governor finally said that he would do in March, I guess, an independent safety review. He is in the process of doing that. They hired some people to do the analysis. When it's going to be done, I don't know.
The contract ended this month.
The contract will end in September? October.
And the other issue regarding that is the actual work order talks about a safety assessment of the pipeline, but could be anywhere, makes no mention of Indian Point and of the co-location of those two hazardous infrastructures, and doesn't talk about a pipeline rupture and any of the issues surrounding the concerns that have been
Yeah.
expressed today. So
You
the
know,
work order does not
Paul has been,
reflect
right,
that.
and Paul's been doing a lot of work on the intricacies of the governmental processes, and I think maybe, Paul, why don't you come up and sort of respond to these? Yes.
I wonder if anyone has approached the Department of Defense, since this has been a terrorist target in the past, and this certainly makes it a much easier terrorist target. In fact, on a TV show on NBC that I've never watched before, last week there was a show where eco-terrorist was targeting a pipeline next to the nuclear plant on the Hudson.
Yeah.
So if anybody hadn't thought about it beforehand, I'm sure they know about it now.
Those eco-terrorists.
But it does seem like the Department of Defense could.
Well, it would be the Department of
possibly
Homeland
stop
Security,
this or Homeland
And,
Security.
these are just massive bureaucracies, and there are people in those bureaucracies who completely get what you're talking about, who may or may not have any real influence on departmental policies or priority setting. I mean, it's just really complicated, but that's another challenge that should be explored. But maybe Paul should say something about your experience with the government systems. Take an hour or two. Go ahead, Yen.
Can I just ask a question of Dr. Redletter for a
Yes.
minute? I'd like to pick up on this health department,
Yeah.
the comment that was made. If we could get the commissioners of the health departments of every county that's within the 50-mile
Yes.
radius, including New York City and, New York State and all the different counties, would you actually be willing to speak to all of these county health departments and have them then write a letter or actually request a meeting
I
in
would
Washington?
absolutely be willing to do
You
that.
would absolutely be willing, okay.
And I do work with the Health Commissioner of New York City, and that department is not likely to do anything too dramatic.
Well, most of them are not.
Right, but I'd be happy to speak to any of them and all of them, so if that could be set up, I'm there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure what more I could say about, government and state agencies. I've tried working with them all, and frustrating would be the kindest thing I could say about them. It's just impossible to get through these agencies. As I say, I've met with the chairman of the commission, we've had conference calls. They don't do their job. They just do not do their job, and it doesn't matter what agency I've dealt with. I'm sure it's the same with the FAA and, FDA. There's only one agency I've ever heard anything good about, and that's the National Transportation Safety Board.
Yeah.
Totally independent, but we've tried, can't get them interested. But they would be ones, that could do it, although they probably do not have the statutory authority to do it.
Right, there's one other element I almost forgot about, which is absolutely critical, and they're standing in the back of the room. It has to do with the media. And I think that probably one of the most effective mechanisms for getting something to happen is big engagement of the media. And I would suggest that be fully explored. Local media, regional media, national media, ProPublica, all of the agencies that, all the news agencies that we have in this country, even though they're consumed with what I was talking about before, still have a responsibility, and I believe an interest in exploring some of these critical issues and doing it in the way that good investigative reporters know how to do, and try to keep that alive as an issue, because that bolsters the political processes that we might put in place. So if the political and governmental agencies understand that they're being watched, that really does tend to help bring this and elevate this issue to a place where actions can be taken. Without the media paying attention to it, you're just sort of whistling in the wind there.
Yeah.
Is that the right expression?
Yeah.
Whistling in the wind.
Well,
Whatever that is.
I'm a sailor, I have.
I don't know why people whistle into the wind, but anyway, some people. But anyway, the media has an extraordinarily important role to play here, and I think pressing that component of a big strategy is key. Do you agree?
I agree. We've tried. We've gotten a lot of media attention. I've even gotten a call from 60 Minutes. But right now, there's so much other stuff going on, and
Yeah.
the problem is, unless something happens, God forbid, we ain't gonna get it. It just doesn't happen. We keep trying.
He keeps telling us that they need to have an event in order to come.
Well, they don't really want this event.
They want an accident.
Yeah.
The wonderful.
As an event, there will be no media.
I think the problem, if there is an incident, we learned from 9/11 that when those towers fell, we actually grabbed samples and we tested them when they had really high levels. And so we FOIA'd the federal government, the state, and the city at the same time, because New York State kept on saying the air was safe due to DEC air monitoring reports. The city and the Fed gave us thousands of pages of records that showed how bad it was. The state held up giving us records on the ground that there was a criminal investigation going on. So my biggest fear as an environmental attorney is that whatever happens, we're not the last person that's going to tell us what's happening. Information that you need to treat people is the state's going to be holding that back.
Okay, well, let me, before this gets too morose, this conversation, I would like to say this. So with my other hat, I do children's health, and we provide healthcare to very medically underserved children around the country. The program started 30 years ago, but I've been working myself 45 years on access to healthcare for very medically underserved children and families. So the message for me about this is complexity and frustration is not an excuse for complacency. And I think that, yes, it's frustrating. None of you have been frustrated as long as I have. Maybe Paul, I'll give you that. But I'm a lot older than you are, and I've been through a lot of very stressful, frustrating efforts to do advocacy. I'm just telling you, you can't give up. So yeah, I understand it's hard, but we have new players in place at all times. We have a media class, we have social media that we didn't have before that can very much expand our ability to have a voice out there. And I think we need to use all the tools that are available to us and keep on forging ahead because the stakes are so high. That's the reality of it. Yes?
I'd just like to point out for people who are concerned that media won't come out unless there is an event, there's a problem, there's an accident. There have been multiple arrests on this pipeline of people who are putting themselves, their lives, their livelihoods, their health on the line. We had 4 people who climbed into a pipe in advance of the Hudson River crossing, which hasn't happened yet. They failed to do that river crossing once on a technical failure. They're going to try again soon, and other people are stepping up and going in and trying to stop that from happening. Protect the water, protect our air, protect our health and our safety. And the media shows up for that. They see citizens standing up and saying this is wrong and we have to do something about it. Not writing letters, actually putting their bodies on the line. And I think it's important that everyone who is concerned about this process, when you hear about the Montrose 9, when you hear about the Hudson River Trio, when you hear about the people who were in the pipe this past week, that you step up and you support them and you make it known that they are not criminals. They are advocates for public health and safety, and they are taking steps to protect. That is what is important to them. And the media comes out for that, politicians come out for that, and the industry takes notice of it. Public resistance to these pipelines and other pieces of infrastructure are one of the largest worries of the fossil fuel industry today, because it is slowing down their projects, it is making them less profitable, and making them less likely to happen. So I would encourage everyone to go out and support people and get involved on a very ground, grassroots level, because that gets stuff done.
Absolutely agree, but have there been celebrities who have attached themselves to this?
In West Roxbury, in Boston, Al Gore's daughter was involved.
She's here.
Hi, yeah, I was actually, I participated in civil disobedience in the West Roxbury lateral portion of the AIM pipeline, and am one of 6 people facing charges there. I'm also, I totally agree with what you said. Maybe it shouldn't be that way, but it is that way. And it's really important, I think, that and I also participated at Columbia Law School just a few days ago in a panel discussion of climate change and civil disobedience, and really recognizing that at this point, when we have our leadership saying that they signed the Paris Agreement, and yet we know that if we build more fossil fuel infrastructure, we know we have to accelerate the transition to renewables in order to meet those Paris targets. So I think it's important. I understand that some people are comfortable with the language around natural gas being a bridge fuel, but I think it's important to recognize that a lot of these people exercising that civil disobedience as a role of civic responsibility, which is what it is, are really calling on not only the immediate safety concerns, but also thinking we need to be able as a society and a culture to think long term. That's really at stake here. So I would just echo what you said, and I know Jessica Roth is here. She's really coordinating a lot of these actions on the ground to really. And the other thing about it, I just want to add one thing, which is in civil disobedience strategy, and think back to the civil rights movement, which is really, the appropriate analogy, lunch counter sit-ins, to have that moment where people who are on the sidelines, who are not really sure, go, wait, this is wrong. They're not doing this for kicks. They're doing this because they are actually responding to their conscience. and a higher law. And I think it would be really important for people to just, you don't have to participate yourself, but come and support those actions, I think would be really wonderful. And the same, bring your skills in any way, just to echo in the media and to tell people in other spheres of power that that's what it's about.
I just want to add that the National Lawyers Guild is there to help.
Good.
James Cromwell of Dave fame and Star Trek has also been helping us with this CPD power plant in Orange.
Could you speak up? I didn't hear it.
Oh, I said, he asked about the celebrities, and I mentioned that James Cromwell, who is the farmer in Babe and has been an activist for many, many years, has also been very helpful to us.
He was arrested too.
And was arrested.
Well, it'd be really interesting if you could put together 20 or 30,000 people from the region to come here with your dad and maybe a number of other people and just kind of like do a big thing, do a really big thing. Can you do that?
I don't want to take too much time, but just to mention one other component of this, for those who have tuned into the Standing Rock situation with the Standing Rock Sioux blocking the Dakota Access Pipeline, I've participated in several solidarity with Standing Rock events in this region in which people are only just coming to consciousness that we actually have something here, and then when they do, are absolutely ready. There's a lot of people that don't know about this pipeline. It's amazing. People who are very, very concerned about the ecological dimensions, the safety dimensions, the health, who do not know about it. So I would say solidarity with Standing Rock. There was an actress, Shailene Woodley, who was arrested there. We are in contact with her about AIM. And more and more the people in Standing Rock are actually aware. Also keep in mind some of these names, Algonquin, Incremental Market Pipeline, Indian Point. There have been, Pilgrim Constitution. AIM stands for American Indian Movement. These things do actually resonate with some meaning, for people who have been consistently oppressed. The people that are in Standing Rock are really hearing this call. So I would just say keep your ears out. I work at Union Theological Seminary at the Center for Earth Ethics. We're very much engaged in making relationships with indigenous communities, and so this is part of what we're doing. So I'll definitely try to get the word out where Solidarity with Standing Rock can also work towards the kind of attention that we need for AIM.
Just a follow-up question for you, Dr. Redden. You were suggesting exactly what? And I'm sorry, but I think his suggestion got a little bit skirted. It got a little bit skirted.
Yeah.
20 to 30,000 people.
Yeah.
What do you think it would take, ideally?
What to do? What to get those people, or to?
Well, no. I mean, what is your suggestion? Could you
I
repeat it?
would create a massive rally here with like a lot of people, not a couple hundred people, but
Yeah, right.
at a very different scale with a lot of really well-known names. Not somebody you say, well, that's the guy who played such and such. I'm talking about some big-time,
Big time movie stars.
big-time stars and big-time athletes. A lot of them who live up in this area anyway. And I think create a major event that the press must pay attention to, and that'll, sort of the fast track. If it can be organized, it's a fast track way of getting awareness out there.
I'd
So
like to make one comment as a media person. It is devilishly difficult to make pipelines sexy. People are just not flipping interested in pipelines. And I've done flyering and they just shrug it off. So something has to be done in the publicity to make people realize the enormity. By enormity, I mean outrageous, beyond outrageous proportions of this.
well, I don't think it's easy, but I do think that this is, like you're saying, it's the massive consequences that would be involved here, and the number of people affected, and the number of people whose personal lives would be affected. including a lot of people who are very well known. I mean, I wouldn't pretend to say how you would organize that here, but there's people that you know, what you do is basically you go to existing institutions, organizations that have memberships, church groups, et cetera, and you start trying to gin up interest in a gathering. So it's focused, and there are ways for articulating this, I think, that would make public interest in the question about the pipeline safety very vibrant and very real. I think we'd have to think about how that messaging would be structured, but it would be beyond the technical issues of just saying here's how much pressure will be in the pipe, here's how big it is, but really in describing what would happen in the event of a massive of a rupture, explosion, and so on, as Paul's been talking about. But I think all of these tools together, you know, investigative reporting, pushing the media to do their part here, gathering lots and lots of people in a very visible way with you know, bold-faced names helping to lead the effort. There are a lot of things that, and then dealing with the political system, dealing with the agencies, all of these things that we're talking about, transition teams and so on, you have an opportunity to create a movement, but it has to happen quickly here. I mean, this is like, what I'm afraid of is they'll put all the pieces of this pipe together, and before you know it, we'll have high pressure, you know, gas under very high pressure going through these pipes, and that'll be a lot more difficult to disrupt than doing it and getting it done before those things are operational.
Our last question here.
Oh. Has anyone ever brought the people together, like from the place in Quebec, the different places where there were explosions and deaths? I know post-Fukushima, the Indian Point people brought first responders here to talk to us, but I just wonder if the impacted communities nationwide have ever been brought together to really discuss what they've been through and whether that would be helpful at all.
Standing Rock. The Standing Rock in North Dakota. This is the media capital of the entire world, is right here. So it's a whole different set of possibilities to do something here than even in Standing Rock. If we had a Standing Rock type of event, even bigger here, that would have a much bigger impact, I think, generally. But food for thought.
I'd like to thank all of our speakers today and all of the attendees. I hope you found some good ideas, and that we'll all continue to work together and be able to stop this. Thanks very much.